Well, you said that they didn't run out of water. They did run out of water.
There were.
As far as,
Here we go, getting into the weeds again, Herb.
Okay,
I was specifically talking. Hold on. I was specifically talking about in certain counties, in LA County and other counties, there were water pressurization issues. In the first several hours of these fires, there were some counties that did run out of water. But the overwhelming majority of these fires, there were pressurization issues. How do we know that? Because the people on the ground were speaking about it. So I don't want to get in the weeds with you on which counties did and which counties didn't. So if you'd like to further the conversation, go ahead.
Okay. I'm talking about one county, which is LA County. That's where the Pacific Palisades fire was. The CEO of the Department of Water and Power in Los Angeles said that they ran out of water within the first 12 hours of the fire.
Which is what I just said.
Okay.
So what is your point?
County.
So what is your point?
The reason why there were pressure issues because they ran out of water.
That is not true with some of the counties that ran out of water.
They're separate issues.
Those are separate issues, Herb.
In 2014.
Now we have a MAGA water expert.
In 24, I'm just going by what the CEO.
No, I think you're an expert.
No, he's not. He's going by what the news is telling.
Exactly. You're going by what Newsmax and OAN and Fox News are telling you.
I'm going by the press conference that took place yesterday, and the CEO of the Department of Water and Power in Los Angeles made this comment. She said it.
Okay, well, I'd love to see the quote that all the counties ran out of water, Herb. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation?
It's not a matter of all the counties. It's one county that
so, and what's your point?
What's
your point, Herb? What's your point, water expert? What's your point?
The other thing is one of the reasons why there was no water pressure because there was no water in any of the three counties.
That's not accurate.
That's why it ran out of water.
That's not true, Herb.
The other thing is that in 2014, Brian, they passed a Proposition 1 in the state of California to build, in fact, they set aside billions of dollars to build reservoirs. They haven't built one of them yet. They haven't built one yet.
Is that a fact?
So the whole point being is that, look it up. Have your producer look it up. The point being is that the preparations for a fire, they knew it was going to be a fire sooner or later. It always is in Malibu in that area.
So I want to interject. So the first thing I would say is this.
Well, let me finish.
I'm not going to let you speak for 5 minutes. Now it's your turn to be quiet. Now I'm going to speak, okay? It's not your show. I gave you time. I'm not hanging up on you. Please be quiet. Now it's my turn. First of all, I don't mind criticizing Gavin Newsom. It could be the mayor of LA. We got to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Yes, there were 100-mile-an-hour winds. Yes, there were a lot of factors that helped contribute to this. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Here's my problem. People like you and many other MAGA supporters think that Donald Trump did a great job during COVID. Barack Obama. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because I hear excuse me. Pot him down. Hey, jackass.
He asked not to be interrupted.
I asked you not to interrupt me. So now you're going to shut up, or I'm going to move on to the next caller. Okay, Mr. Water MAGA expert. During COVID and before COVID, we talk about a plan, and I hear a lot of people on the far right saying, "Wow, Gavin Newsom didn't have a plan." Barack Obama left Donald Trump with a plan.
He put it in writing.
In writing, thank you, Leonard, to deal with a global pandemic. Donald Trump threw that out the window. They never used it. But I didn't hear people like you talking about the plan when millions of people died. Do I put that all on Donald Trump? No. But don't preach to me about how you think this was a poor plan and they weren't prepared for it. Gavin Newsom's not talking about injecting yourself with disinfectant. Gavin Newsom didn't say 15 houses are going to be burned and it's down to 0 by Easter. There are mistakes that were made, no question. Fair to have criticism. But people like you, when it's convenient, political points, want to blame Gavin Newsom, liberals and Democrats for all of your problems. But yet, when it comes to a Republican, or when Ted Cruz flies out of Texas and goes to Cancun when his entire state is in a state of emergency, you don't call conservative radio shows and complain about that. You won't call this show and say, boy, I can't believe Ted Cruz left all of his constituents when they were in a state of emergency. I can't believe that Donald Trump threw out that pandemic plan playbook in writing.
Can I make a comment? So it was an unprecedented fire with 100-mile-an-hour winds, and it spread faster than anyone could put it out ever. It's one of the worst in history. And in all likelihood, if the reservoirs were full, it would not have made a difference. It spread too fast in too many areas. It was 0% contained. There was not enough firemen in the planet because it's burning in 3 different places. Clark County today sent a team of 6 different fire units to try to help out because they're running out of firemen. So it was unprecedented. It wouldn't have mattered I don't think it would have mattered if the reservoirs were full. There's no way they were catching this fire.
So go ahead, Herb.
Okay, so let me just say, first of all, I'm not saying that they could have stopped the fire. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that, Brian, you gave out false information.
I did not give out false information in many cases, and I will repeat myself once again because my issue is people like you don't know how to listen. So I'm going to have to repeat myself to Mr. Water MAGA expert. I will repeat it again. Please pay attention and get the MAGA wax out of your ears. Mr. Water Technical Expert, please get the MAGA wax out of your ears. You're not listening. I will repeat to all of my ignorant MAGA friends. Yes, Herb, I put you in that category. I never said there was no water that emptied out, or for lack of a better term, in some counties. There was. But the overwhelming majority of these fire hydrants were not working because of pressurization issues. Yes, there were some that ran out of water. No question. I never said all. Some did, a lack of water. No question. But there were also in most, which they also said in this press conference, which you don't seem to care about, there were pressurization issues. On the record, they have said that. Now, you also said, I'm not saying this would have prevented the fire. Okay, then what the hell are you saying?
Can I mention one thing, an analogy?
Yeah.
Katrina when they had the levees in Louisiana, it breached the levees. But no one could see that coming. You can't really blame anyone for that.
Or the wind, 100-mile-per-hour winds, and Herb wants to talk about water.
That could spread a fire over miles in seconds.
Is that Pete Buttigieg's fault? Is that Joe Biden's fault, that California, Herb? Serious question. 100-mile-an-hour winds. Would you blame Joe Biden for that or Gavin Newsom?
Well, Donald Trump did say they control the weather, didn't he? At one point,
Brian, let me just say.
I want to. Can you please answer my question? Were the 100-mile-per-hour winds George Soros' fault?
No, I'm not saying it was.
Okay, I just wanted to know what your thought was. I'm just asking.
Okay,
that's all.
Okay. Well, why don't you listen?
Why don't I listen?
Listen. Okay. So the point being is that that area has fires almost every year. I lived in California. I lived in that area. I worked in that area, and I'm telling you. That place is prone for fires. So they knew it was a problem, but there was no steps taken in advance.
That is also not true.
Fire.
There was $1 billion bill that was passed to bring more water to those facilities. There were bills that were passed trying to help ensure. Now, that doesn't mean that more help can't be done. Let me ask you a question, Herb.
Brian,
and we'll leave it at this.
Let
me ask you a question, Herb, and then we'll leave it at this.
Do you realize that the state of California...
Herb... I'm trying to ask you a question. This is that whole conversation thing. Okay.
They dump 100 billion gallons
Herb keeps repeating his water talk, his right-wing MAGA water talking points. So Herb, a lot of people on the far right are blaming DEI hires. I played you Scott Jennings on CNN and the Charlie Kirks of the world. Let's go through these, and I just want to know if you agree. It's a simple question. I want to ask you several questions. If you're capable of listening to a question and answering it, which I think you are, I hope so, would you blame DEI hires for partially what has taken place in California? Go ahead, Herb.
I don't know the competence of the police chief in
I didn't ask you the competence of the police chief. I'm going to ask you the question again, and the question has nothing to do with the police chief. I need you to pay attention to my question. It had nothing to do with the police chief. Do you think DEI hires within the fire department contributed to these fires?
Okay, I can't say that. I'm sorry, I meant the LA Fire Department. I can't say that she's a DEI. I don't know, and I don't know her.
You don't know. Okay, so as a black man calling into this show, for right-wingers out there that are blaming, because this is the question, DEI hires, they're literally blaming DEI hires partially for these fires. You're saying as a black MAGA supporter that you don't know whether that was a factor or not, which is absurd and ridiculous. That's like saying, I don't know if the earth is round or flat. Okay, another question that the right-wing MAGA fools are saying, do you think that a 2% pay cut in the budget, let me repeat, 2% led to these fires taking place? Yes or no?
Well, let me say this. She wanted a $23 million.
I didn't ask you what she wanted. You're not answering my question. I will ask it again.
He doesn't have any facts. He's just talking.
No, he just talks. I'm asking again, and it has nothing to do with what your thoughts are with the chief. Do you think a 2% pay cut, which is what the firefighters got in that county, led to what has taken place in the last couple of days? Very simple question.
I don't know.
You don't know. All right, well, Herb, that is the problem with this conversation. You don't know a lot. You can't answer direct questions. All of a sudden, you've turned into a water expert.
Does he think if was helicopter suppression, that would have helped?
Yeah.
Because 100-mile-an-hour winds, there's no helicopter suppression.
Yeah.
There's only water.
Do you think that, good question, do you think that might have contributed, Herb, the fact that they couldn't get helicopters up there?
Well, first of all, why don't you two listen to what I'm saying?
All right. We did, and you say nothing. You're full of empty words, and you don't know what you're talking about.
And that's the problem, Brian, in my opinion, with a lot of these people. They have talking points from the news, but they really don't have any factual or any knowledge to back it up. How does he know? He'd have to be a fire expert to say whether or not extra water was going to help.
Let's defend Herb for a moment. He might be a fire expert. I'm sure he has decades of work. He certainly is a water expert based on what he said on this program. He certainly is an expert when it comes to transgenders, right? And homosexuality. He's called in and talked about that before. Definitely an infectious disease expert that probably has more experience than Dr. Fauci. So elections expert as well with election integrity. So Herb is a well-rounded individual, right? Very well-rounded, just like Donald Trump's gut.
Would you have another caller, or would you indulge me for a minute just for one quick rant?
Go ahead.
Okay. So while you and I are talking about this and the whole country is talking about this, let me just say, this is what they're distracted from. And I'm going to give you a quick list. No talk about Department of Education. No talk about closing FBI offices. No talk about the Trump sentencing. No talk about doing away with the 14th Amendment, which Trump said he would do. No talk about Social Security, Medicare. No tax on tips has not been talked about. Pardoning January 6 attackers, inflation, Ukraine, Project 2025, First Amendment on the internet. ICE already is supposedly gathering people in certain areas, and tax breaks for the rich, critical race theory, H-1B visas, in reference to DACA immigration, and silencing or jailing the media. So I know it's my rant, and I just went off a little bit, but all that stuff, CNN, News Nation, MSNBC, all of them, no one talking about. And that's what I think is the problem, because they spent hours and hours on the funeral of Jimmy Carter, which I enjoyed, but they're not talking about anything else.
Amen. I agree. They should be. Let's go.
Thank you for the rant.
No, I appreciate it. Let's go to, thank you, Herb, for the phone call. You're very intelligent.